Welcome to the Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Monday night as we get ready for some Tuesday MLB action. That's right, Major League Baseball. We are here. We are making the cutover to talk baseball. There is a four-game NBA slate. It starts at 8 o'clock on Tuesday. There are massive slates on Wednesday, Friday, and then I forget which 2 days, but 2 days next week. And when I say massive, I mean at 9, 10, and 12 gamers as they wrap up the NBA season. We'll have plenty of content for that. We're going to have live before lock with Fast Eddie Fear. But as we have seen the last few days, everything changes even after lock. So we're not going to spend a bunch of time on there, but we do have some core play articles, etc. But we're going to talk your foundational Major League Baseball DFS action. I am joined by the pitching maestro himself. That is one Adam Scherer. Adam, are you excited to kind of have NBA in the rearview mirror? Because we both had, you had a really, really good season, and I had my most profitable NBA season in the last 3 years, so I'm happy with it as well. I'm sad to see it go, but oh god, I forgot how insane it gets down the stretch here.
Yeah, I'm ready for it to be done. It took longer this season for me to be over it, but it's gotten to the point where it's just I don't enjoy this time of the year. Lofty and I talked about it some on the deeper dive show last night, and he still enjoys it. I agree with him. There's an edge if you want to dig into it, but I don't like it, so I'm ready for it to end.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing is, hey, remember, that's why we have the Osmo Premium Slack, because we are in there looking at it. It's just that when we're focused on multiple sports, we're going to put the main one up front, but we're definitely going to take care of everybody else. If you guys have not yet signed up, now is the perfect time to do it. We've got the Masters coming up. We've got the March Madness winding down. We've got the Final Four this weekend. We have some amazing projections from Osmo. There, Alex Baker's himself. That he's been putting out there. I won 3 of the 4 days I played and would have been playing the whole tournament. I just jumped in the Sweet 16 once I found out how many people were having so much success. So I wanted to get in on the fun there, Adam. But if you use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, you'll get 50% off any 1 month package that does include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. Also, if you rep the Osmo badge, the logo, if you will, the avatar, and you get a top 10 finish in a contest, I think it has to be a $5,000 or $10,000 or more. There's an article on the homepage talking about it, but bink one of those or get a top 10 with the badge, tweet it out, and you can earn a free month of Osmo Premium content, full access. We had a guy take down the Doolin. He took down the 20,000 top prize on Friday over there on Yahoo in their big tournament, Adam. $20,000 on Yahoo, a 10 entry max. It was $20 per entry. That is some serious ROI.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then shout out to T McBee, who's seen his name in lights the last couple nights here. He is dialed in for the moment for baseball. Let's see if we can bring everybody else along for the ride. Adam, there are 2 early games starting at 6 or in the 6 o'clock hour. What you are going to find is that New York, Cincinnati, and Cleveland have embraced a 6 o'clock hour, at least until school gets out, for their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday starts if they are at home. That is why they're not going to be on the main slate. DraftKings actually broke out their tiers game and started it with those 6 o'clock games. So pay attention. Sites are handling things a little bit differently this year than they have in the past, but just keep an eye on stuff. Adam, we've got some aces on the mound. Things have circled back around since the official opening day. We're looking at Max Scherzer, who's going to be taking on former teammate Bryce Harper. We've got Justin Verlander. You've got Chris Sale, reigning Cy Young winner Blake Snell, Madsen Bumgarner, let's see, Zach, I give up home runs Greinke, and Andrew, I give up home runs Cashner. Oh, and Marco Gonzalez. Hey guys, this is my 3rd start of the year. We've got some people we can really look at. What do you like here as we spend a little bit of time breaking down the various pitchers today?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting slate because you have a few aces at the top, but you have Scherzer in a pretty difficult matchup against Philadelphia. Not that he's someone that I really care about the matchup, but it is a good Philly team. One thing working in his favor is Philadelphia's projected lineup does have 5 right-handed hitters plus the pitcher, Zach Eflin. So we know that Scherzer is good against lefties, but he's absolutely dominant against right-handed hitters. So the lineup will most likely benefit him. A little bit, excuse me, a little bit below him in salary, you have Justin Verlander going into Texas, facing a Texas team that has some power, but also has plenty of strikeouts in their lineup. Verlander coming off the best season of his career with a 38% strikeout rate. So tons of upside there. I think very comparable to Scherzer. And then you have Sale, for looking at DraftKings pricing, $1,000 less than Verlander, facing a right-handed heavy Oakland team in Oakland. So a nice ballpark. And we know that Sale is a dominant pitcher, but there are some legitimate concerns after his first start of the season. We know he dealt with some arm injuries at the end of last year. And then in his first start this year, his velocity across the board was down. Average fastball velocity at 92 miles per hour. The velocity on his other pitches was down as well. 92.9 miles an hour on his fastball in that first start. Last season, he averaged 95.7 miles an hour. So he was down almost 3 miles an hour there. He was down about 1.5 miles per hour on his sinker, 2 miles an hour on his changeup, 1.5 miles on his slider. So legitimate concerns there, I think, that you at least want to keep in mind before you start jamming in Chris Sale.
All right. And that one I definitely agree with. He's been, I don't know, that was a rough start. And I mean, it was rougher than most. I mean, some of them, we'll write off, tough matchup, etc. But he just looked terrible. And in this particular one, it's a, what did I look up here? Sale. Oh, never mind. Who is he facing today?
Sale?
Yeah.
Oakland.
Sorry, I haven't done all my V lookups, so I looked up to see him facing his own team. So no, let's look up the Athletics here in our filter. The one thing that stands out amongst the Athletics is they're not great. You've got Chris Davis, you got Chad Pinder, and you've got Matt Chapman. Maybe a little bit of Mark Canha, but I don't really know what we want to do. This is going to be one of those tempting spots where we may be drawn to this like moths to a flame. The one thing I was telling Adam pre-show is I think I remembered faster this year than any other year that sometimes paying for good pitchers can be a bit of a fallacy just because there are so many variables, outcomes, volatility, variance, however you want to package it. But just keep that in mind that in DFS baseball, more often than not, it is going to be the bats that carry your day. And as long as you can survive with your pitchers, you can, reallocate that salary cap to your hitters and hopefully get an edge. You still need everything to go your way, but it is a little bit more upside because a 2 home run game from any player is going to outpace the majority of the pitchers on any given slate.
Yeah, so, and for Sale, it is, if he's not 100%, it's a really scary matchup because this Oakland team has strikeouts, but they have a lot of power too. Their active roster last season, like their current active roster, but last season's numbers, ranked 6th in WRC plus at 116 against left-handed pitching, 6th highest WOBA at 340, a 194 ISO, which was 3rd in all of baseball. So if Sale doesn't have his best stuff, this is a lineup that can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you look at Grossman, Pinder, Chapman, Davis, Kana, you're not going to be overly scared of them, but they are averaging collectively a 120 WRC plus over the last 2 seasons against lefties. So what that is kind of as what Adam alluded to, it's a weighted runs created plus. Now what this is it is an advanced metric that has been created to neutralize park factors. So what it does is it sets a league-wide baseline of 100. And then whatever your WRC plus is, that means that is the run creating efficiency that you have over or below the league average. So those half dozen guys I mentioned collectively are 20% better than the league average in the similar situation. So it's just a measuring stick that tries to take out some of the different noise that's there, and it's an effective one. So anytime you get guys above 110, it's pretty solid. You get guys above 125, 130, and that's the elite level. Are those kind of the benchmarks you look at for individual players or team players?
Yeah, and then you get Mike Trout at like 180.
Well, there. That's why he got paid though. He got paid dollar bills, y'all.
Yeah. If you're ever questioning on a side note, if you're ever questioning like how much better Mike Trout is than everyone else that plays baseball, just look at WRC plus. It gives you a pretty good screenshot of that.
Yeah, So if the average baseball player were to score 100 runs in a season, he would score 180.
I,
So,
I made up that number, but it's somewhere in that range.
oh, okay, okay. Well,
Yeah, I don't know off the top
we
of my head.
we can find it soon enough. But in any event, reining our love back in. So that's where we get a little bit of the concern for Sale. If you look to Max Scherzer on the other side, now Washington plays kind of as a neutral, a little bit of a more hitting friendly park. But you got to watch out for the weather because when it's cooler, it's slightly pitcher friendly. It's kind of one of those on the baseline. But in the summer, holy heck, when it gets hot and you get all the humidity down here in DC, it definitely plays to the hitter's favor. But looking at the matchup that we have, of course, Harper facing Scherzer. This should be an exciting one because Harper is one of the best against righties. He over the last 850 plate appearances has a 407 WOBA and a 293 isolated power. Those are like pretty much top 5 numbers during that time frame for that number of at bats. You have Rhys Hoskins, who actually does decent in righty-righty matchups with actually slightly better numbers than Harper or equal, depending on what category you look at. But Scherzer really shuts down righties. And then you got a bunch of question marks here. Guys with good numbers, but I think with Scherzer's pedigree, people like Real Muto, Nick Williams, McCutcheon, those are guys that we shouldn't be overly worried about. But we are paying top dollar here for Scherzer. What do you think about Maximilian on Tuesday, Adam?
I think if we do get the right-handed heavy lineup like is projected for Philadelphia, that he'll be a good play. My problem is just that there are a couple guys in like the upper mid-range that we haven't gotten to yet that when you factor in the savings you get, I would prefer to Scherzer.
All right, let's move down to Verlander here. So he's got an intriguing matchup against the Rangers. So let me call up their team. So the Rangers are a little bit weaker than they have been normally. They've got a few hitters that strike a little fear into somebody's heart, while they also strike out. Yes, leading the charge would be Joey Gallo, who over his last 800 plate appearances against righties has a 35% strikeout rate, but he also has a 315 ISO, which is amazing. So he's boom or bust. You've got the addition of Asdrubal Cabrera, who is a solid, crafty hitter. I think he's going to be batting 5th most of this season. You have Nomar Mazara, who does a little bit of everything, who's solid, but then it really drops off. We're looking at Elvis Andrus, Rougned Odor, the body formerly known as Hunter Pence. He's not quite a zombie yet, but he's not Hunter Pence anymore. Anything here that has you concerned at all by targeting pitchers against Texas?
No, I mean, there's a lot of power in the lineup. There's also a lot of strikeouts. Chu is up over 20%. Odor is well over 20%. Gallo's at like 40%. Ronald Guzman strikes out a lot. So the risk of home runs is made up for by the fact that Verlander should be able to rack up strikeouts. Again, though, in tournaments especially, I don't know that you need to get all the way up to Verlander because there is significant upside in the upper mid-range.
Yep. All right. Well, let's hit on a few of those here. And again, we're digging mostly into pitchers here because we'll go down to the list and talk about some of the crummier ones as well. And then those are going to be the guys you want to target against. But this is just a high level look because a lot of things can change with lineup. Plus, on the deep dive article series that's written Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday by Adam. It is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday by Dave Lochran. You know him better as Lofty D. They'll break into all sorts of pitch mixes, what's happening with velocity, exit velocity for the hitters, etc. They'll dive into all of that and be able to have a much better read on what's going on with the different pitchers. The other thing that's a little different, hitters as well. The other thing that's a little different is these guys are, making their third start in the case of Marco Gonzalez. We don't have a lot of current track record with them. So this podcast will evolve a little bit as we get more data, as we get deeper into the season, as we start to see more trends. But in the meantime, we're just going to hit the high notes here, which of course starts with pitching. And to bring it full circle, lets us know which pitchers we want and which pitchers we want to take hitters against. Jose Berrios. I'm assuming that's going to be one of these, as we get towards the mid-tier guys, that is going to catch your eye, Adam. He has really improved over the last couple seasons is almost put everything together. I think that's not crazy to say. Is he starting to get closer to the price tier that is intriguing you? He is 9,700 there on DK, and he is 97 as well on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that's interesting to me. Not my favorite guy, but it's not a bad matchup against Kansas City. There are some strikeouts in that lineup, not a lot of power, a ton of speed. So if they get on base, they can potentially look to run. Quickly looking to see how Berrios has been at holding runners in the past. He's been basically league average last season, slightly below average before that, but nothing crazy. The bigger concern for me with Berrios, and I don't put a whole lot of stock into home road splits when we're talking when we're talking about a pitcher who doesn't pitch in an extreme park one way or the other. But Berrios throughout his career, including last season individually, has been much, much better at home than on the road, including not just the production that he allows, but also his strikeout percentage and his walk percentage. So just something kind of to have in the back of your mind. It's not a big deal for me just because, again, I don't – you're talking about, Minnesota's a hitter-friendly park. Kansas City is neutral to pitcher-friendly. There's no reason that Berrios should be better at home consistently. It's not like he pitches in Tampa Bay or something like that. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt, but it's been going on for a few years now, so I wanted to at least point that out. But he clearly does have a very high ceiling against Kansas City here.
Yeah, especially with guys like O'Hearn, Duda, Adalberto Mondesi, Jorge Soler, who has some power. He's also got some holes in his swing. Those guys all strike out between 25 and 30% of the time. So that is definitely some inherent upside built in there for Berrios. And then Alex Gordon, not that far off either at 22%. Moving to our next guy here, you've got Hyun-Jin Ryu, who is 9,300 on DK. He is going against San Francisco. He is 9,200 on FanDuel. We know that San Francisco is missing a few of their key bats. They're not quite as fearsome as they were, even when you're looking at it being Andrew McCutchen no longer on the team, etc. But they've got even more holes than they normally do in their lineup. What do you think about Ryu? We got to see him once thus far. We know that occasionally Dave Roberts has a quick hook. Thanks DraftKings. Let's not put up this year's game logs. Does FanDuel hook us up? There you go. FanDuel, let's see. FanDuel. But in his last outing, 6 innings against Arizona, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned run. That's pretty solid. What do you think his odds are of coming close to that again, this time against the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a great matchup. You do run the risk of Dave Roberts pulling him early, but he went 6 innings against Arizona. He really looked good last season. He made 15 starts, and previously in his career, he'd been an effective pitcher on a run prevention basis, but he hadn't been much of a strikeout guy. But in 15 innings last season, in 15 starts last season, he struck out 27.5% of hitters, only walked 4.6%. So looked really good. Came out against Arizona and continued on that. Pitched really well again. So he's one guy, 9,300, I think, is certainly a high enough upside guy that you can look to him in tournaments.
All right, so let's talk about Blake Snell, or as Loppy likes to call him, the Snellevator. He has done pretty well in his last, 1,050 right-handed batters faced. He has a reasonably excellent 38% fly ball rate. I say that excellent because a lot of those are taking place in Tropicana Field, which is where that game is today, and that is one of the better pitching parks that we have. He also has a relatively solid 26% strikeout rate against righties. Very nice when someone's got that sort of platoon advantage. Against lefties, he's got let me make sure I set my filters right. I did not. I have him against righties twice, Adam. That's not helpful. Give me 1 second here. I know this is riveting podcasting. Let's see. There's Snell. There's the number I'm looking for. 30% against fellow lefties with an excellent 1.26 ERA. Yeah, that's a little bit better than his xFIP of 3, but it's solid. And in 215 batters faced from the left-handed side of the plate, Adam, he has allowed just 3 home runs, and he's allowed them 8 earned runs. Yikes. He is pretty effective against fellow lefties. Going for the Rockies, we already saw that Daniel Murphy is going to be out. He fractured a finger, but we've got Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story. Garrett Hampson is going to be playing more of a role now that Murphy's out. You've got Desmond, you've got Blackman. I think I like Snell in this one.
Number one pitcher on the slate for me.
Okay, let me be quiet and let's hear you trumpet his praises.
So, and again, I'm looking at DraftKings pricing right now. So, but based on that pricing, he's the number one pitcher on the slate for me. He's 9,500. He's 1,000 less than Sale, 2,000 less than Verlander, 2,300 less than Scherzer. Really came into his own last year. He's the top prospect, so it's not like it came out of nowhere. 31.8% strikeout or 31.6% strikeout percentage, a career low 9.1% walk percentage. And his best pitch is his changeup. So he's not a guy with heavy splits because his most effective pitch is a pitch that's very effective against right-handed hitters. Against righties last season, held them to a 260 WOBA, held lefties to a 186 WOBA, struck out 31.1% of righties. You should get around 6 righties from Colorado here, but a huge park downgrade for the Rockies as well, as they hit in Tropicana Field compared to Coors Field. So, you have scary bats in Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado, but Story strikes out a lot. Desmond, Chris Iannetta, Mark Reynolds, these are all high strikeout guys. You've got lefties and Charlie Blackmon and David Dahl and Ryan McMahon. Snell wasn't good in his first start, but I'm not going to take anything away from that, and I'm going to just go right back to him at a really cheap price point here.
Excellent. He is a little more expensive on FanDuel. He's at 10,000 even. He is the fourth most expensive pitcher there, as Adam pointed out. He is fifth most expensive, but it comes at a discount there on DraftKings. As we hit the mid-tier here, Adam, I'm just going to throw out a couple names. If you feel strongly one way or the other, either you want to target against them or you're intrigued by them, we can spend a little more time on them. We do have Madsen Bumgarner, who, hasn't quite been the mad bum that we were used to seeing when he was flirting with his Cy Young seasons, but he did get 7 innings in against the San Diego Padres in his first start, 9 strikeouts, just 1 walk. We like to see that. He is now 2 years removed from his silly bike accident that he tried to lie about. Are you interested in Mad Bum going against a tricky Los Angeles Dodgers team that can go very platoon heavy as they need to?
No, give me the Dodgers bats here.
Okay. Hit on a few of the Dodgers bats.
The 2 obvious ones are AJ Pollock and Justin Turner. Just 2 of the best hitters in that lineup. But you can finish out stacks because even the lefties here, while you don't love their matchup against Bumgarner, they're such good hitters, Seager and Bellinger, that if the Dodgers do get to Bumgarner early and you get into the bullpen, you're going to want those guys in your lineup. Chris Taylor is cheap enough where he's a perfectly viable option. But Bumgarner at this point in his career just really benefits, I think, from pitching in San Francisco. This game, obviously, outside of San Francisco. On the road last year, he allowed 1.56 home runs per 9 innings, 1.94 home runs per 9 to right-handed hitters away from the friendly confines in San Francisco. So this is a spot where I don't think people will go to the Dodgers because of name value, but I definitely think there's a lot of upside in getting the Dodgers bats here.
If you won't believe in BVP, or at least want to have a good laugh, Kike Hernandez, 19 of 39. That's a 487 average against Bumgarner. He is hit 4 home runs, 5 doubles, 10 strikeouts, but just throwing that out there because oftentimes he does get to bat in higher leverage spots, such as first, second, sometimes fifth, against lefties. He has been a bit of a pinch hit risk, though that is happening less frequently. We'll have to see how that plays out this year, but he used to have some pretty heavy splits, but his glove and injuries and the changing of the Dodgers lineup have given him a little bit more leeway in some cases, so just keep an eye on that one. Next guy, what do you feel about Stroman? We're going to be picking on your Baltimore Orioles quite a bit. Stroman really faltered down towards the latter part of last year. He was dealing with a variety of injuries. They probably should have shut him down sooner than they did. He didn't pitch after Labor Day, but he's been around a long time. He is a smart pitcher. It is the Baltimore Orioles. Do you like Stroman, or do you like any Orioles hitters?
I like Stroman. It's just a matter of how much I like him. So, I think he's really interesting to dig into because he's always been a very good real life pitcher, but it hasn't always translated to being a very good DFS pitcher because he's a ground ball guy that, for the most part, will let you put the ball in play, and it doesn't strike out a lot of guys. Last season, he struck out 17.2% of hitters. In 2017, he struck out 19.7%. In 2016, he struck out 19.4%. I think he hasn't struck out more than 20% of hitters except for 2014, and that was 20.8%. So normally I don't really like going to him, especially once his price tag gets up into like the 8 or 9K range. But we did see, now he faced Detroit in his first start. So you don't want to take too much away from the fact that he racked up a bunch of strikeouts and had a 13% swinging strike rate. What I do think is interesting is that he threw his slider 35% of the time in that game. Last season, he averaged 22% usage on the pitch. And whenever we see a pitcher start to throw his slider more, especially in Stroman's case, because it's a perfectly fine pitch, you would expect him to get more strikeouts if he throws it more. It's interesting because you could just see an uptick in strikeouts. Most pitchers, major league pitchers with good stuff that pitch to contact like Stroman, it's normally because they are throwing the incorrect pitches as far as getting strikeouts. And with the increase in analytics in baseball and technology, you're getting a lot of pitchers basically being told, like, throw this pitch more and you're going to be better. It's not that they don't have the ability to do it. It's that wasn't his goal or his intention before, because people thought that, getting ground balls was a good result, and it's not as good as getting a strikeout. And that's what people are finally getting. So whenever you see pitchers start to make that change, especially in the case of Stroman, where worst case is it's not something that lasts, and he goes back and he's still just this good pitcher that probably gives you 6 innings and pitches well, and you're not upset. But best case is that now he's a strikeout guy. I really am interested in getting on him as an SP2 against the Orioles.
All right. I'm just going to throw out a couple other names here. If you have anything to add one way or the other, go ahead and do so. Kyle Freeland gets to go against Tampa Bay, lefty against Tampa Bay. Thoughts there?
He's a really good pitcher. I don't know that the strikeouts are there for him. He's the guy that, pitching in Tampa here, I have no issue with him getting into some of my lineups as an SP2, but I would rather go to like Marcus Stroman for $400 more.
All right. What do you feel about Eric Lauer, who started out reasonably well, as the Padres are looking a little bit frisky? We'll have to see how long that lasts, but he's going against a watered-down Diamondbacks crew that is, of course, missing A.J. Pollock and Paul Goldschmidt, two of the better righties going against lefties. That's a major boost for him here. I'm just looking to see if, I don't know if Avila is going to start, but there is not an overabundance of strikeouts here, but there's also no power against lefties in the Arizona lineup.
Yeah, it's a good spot for Lauer. He's similar to Freeland for me, whereas, obviously I haven't made lineups yet, but I would expect that I have a lot of ownership going to Blake Snell. I would expect that I have a pretty heavy amount of ownership going to Marcus Stroman, and then I have, amongst the rest of the mid-tier guys, I have ownership kind of spread out, with some going to Lauer, some going to Freeland, guys like that. So I would prioritize them behind, those other guys, but it is a nice matchup. Arizona is a team similar to the Orioles, similar to the Marlins, that we can pretty much just stream any reasonably good pitcher against.
All right. Cahill or Marco Gonzalez?
5,900 for Gonzalez is probably a little cheap in tournaments. He's just a better pitcher than that. Not going to be a huge priority for me, because I think that I'll be able to get bats that I want with, like a Snell, Stroman, or Snell, Freeland or Lauer, or whatever combination. But amongst the, sub 6K SP2s, I would say that Gonzalez is my favorite.
All right, and then anybody else here? Keller, we've got Jose Urena going against the Mets. You've got Jason Vargas returning the favor, going against the Marlins in Miami Park. Any of those guys making your potential let's wait and see list?
Yeah, Urena is cheaper than his talent level in that ballpark. Again, it's nowhere I want to get to in cash. It's nowhere I want to get to with a ton of ownership in tournaments. But, he's for a $5,500 pitcher, he's decent.
All right, and then the $1 million question: if you wanted to attack one pitcher, and your choices were Boston against Mike Fiers, if it was Houston going against Shelby Miller, or Toronto going against Andrew Kashner? Who would you want to attack more?
Shelby Miller.
Okay, Shelby Miller. There we are. All right. That's going to kind of do it for us. Again, we'll have the Evolving podcast here, but we just gave you 30 minutes or so on the pitchers and who we want to go with, who we want to go against. We're, of course, going to have the MLB DFS strategy show at 9:15 on Tuesday morning. That will be with Josh Engelman, and I believe it will be Dave Lochran. We'll also be working in Jay Kari to some of those shows. You're going to see me from time to time. You'll see Adam and Laffy on most of them. We also will have the NBA strategy show. That's going to be a solo gig there with Josh, because there's just 4 games. You will get the Live Before Lock with Fast Eddie Fear. That'll be a 4-gamer. Remember, 8 o'clock lock for NBA, so that'll be a 7 o'clock show. And then we've got hockey coming out. We've got the deep dive and Live Before Lock for MLB. We've got you covered. Make sure you head on over there to YouTube, go to the Awesemo channel, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we're going live, because we're going live with all sorts of content. We're going to have some bankroll management stuff and some Fantasy Cruncher, how to use it for MLB for both FanDuel and DraftKings coming up next week. So definitely set your alarm clock. With that, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoney. I am, at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.